forecast is going to be mid-70s and sunny. When I get down there, I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Another mailbag edition for Frank. And one guy that I think is interesting, and I'm glad that they asked you in this week's mailbag, is Tyler Goeddel, the Rule 5 pick. Not a lot of people know a whole heck of a lot about him, but the Phillies have kind of got lucky with a couple of Rule 5 guys, Shane Victorino being one and Odubel Herrera being another. So how does this Rule 5 pick compare to some of the ones of the past?
I think he's a nice gamble to take. He's a former infielder converted to the outfield like Odubel Herrera, but he's put up some decent numbers up through Double-A. I mean, he's a little bit older than a lot of players in Double-A because he played some college ball, so he's a little advanced in that regard. He's got some speed, so he can steal some bases for the team, hopefully. And he's shown he can work some walks and hit for a decent enough average. So he hasn't played above Double-A, but I think he's a pretty good bet.
All right, so he would be in that outfield mix with Herrera, Altair, obviously Borges, who they brought over here, and then Cody Ashley as well. What is the story for Cody Ashley? We had him on the show last week. He talked about learning how to play some left field. We heard he was taking some reps at first base over there. Is Cody Ashley a guy that might be in some trouble this spring?
I think he makes the team. I don't know that he's going to be a starter. If you look at their roster as it shapes up now, Borges, Cody Ashley, and Darnell Sweeney, if everybody makes the opening day roster, there's really not room for all three of them. Now, Sweeney can be optioned to the minor leagues, so that can create some space. But I personally wouldn't have taken the Peter Borges gamble. I think it kind of clogs the outfield a little bit, but at the same time, there's really not that many outfielders on the Phillies' 40-man roster. They only have 6, and typically the team will take 5. So looking at the potential bench players, the Phillies really don't have a left-handed pinch hitter. So that's where I think Ashley's going to come into play. Where he could play against some tough righties in left field or maybe even third base if Maikel Franco needs a day off. And if all goes really well for him, he might platoon with Tyler Goeddel because Goeddel is a right-handed hitter and Ashley's a left-handed hitter. So there could be a match in that regard.
You mentioned Peter Borges and the reason why he was brought here. I guess that is to help out some of these young pitchers. He is an elite-level defensive player.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, he is a top-notch defensive center fielder, so much so that he'll probably bump Odubel Herrera to a corner outfield position whenever they play Borges. I don't know how long I don't know if he's going to be a starter. I think he'll have a shot to show the Phillies that he's got somewhat of a bat left. He hasn't hit well since he was sent from the Cardinals to the Angels. I mean, from the Angels to the Cardinals. So once he was projected to be their starting center fielder, and he kind of lost his job to John Jay over his bat. So if he shows some bat, he might get the chance to start, or maybe they're just going to try to play a defensive outfield with Herrera, Altair, and Borges, and again, as you said, try to give the pitchers some confidence in their defense.
Talking with Frank Klose, 97.3 ESPN.com, covers the Phillies at Frank Klose with a K, 973. He'll be in Clearwater with the Phillies next week when they start their games. And, of course, Frank, one guy that everybody's hyped about is J.P. Crawford. Now, Don Brown was once the number one prospect in baseball. That didn't work. We heard a lot about Franco. That seems to have worked. So what do we know about Crawford? Do you think he will live up to the hype?
Yeah, that was the one question we got. People are asking, is he good as advertised? And I do want to bring a word of caution. I mean, some people think he's going to be the next superstar because he has the prospect tag. And really, when you think about it, I mean, every year they have their top prospects, and if occasionally they work out, quote unquote, that could be that they are a solid major league player. It could mean that they're a bench player because prospects do become valuable bench players on a team. Now, most people project Crawford to have the potential to be an all-star. I've heard some people question his defense, thinking maybe he's a second baseman, but most people think he's got the glove to play shortstop every day. And the question kind of becomes is when his bat comes around. So if his bat comes around, then Crawford has the ability to be an all-star. I mean, looking forward, there's not that many offensive type shortstops in the league right now, and he might have a shot to be a major league all-star. But some people are ready to already put the all-star jersey together for him. But I think that's a little bit premature. But things are looking good.
He's had a couple Futures Games jerseys on him there. We know that. He's the number 4 ranked prospect in baseball, depending on what publication you go by. Today, Ryan Howard spoke at Phillies spring training today, and there are some articles suggesting that there's no need for him to be here. I know he is an older guy. He had some little lashing out at the media today for them portraying him to kind of be a bad guy. It seems like, Frank, this is just a bad fit, though, having Howard around. Do you anticipate, could you see any scenario where Matt Klentak says, you know what, we're going to pull the Band-Aid off and, rid ourselves of Ryan Howard?
I don't see it at this point. I think the Phillies could have done that in the offseason. And I tend to agree with a lot of local writers like David Murphy of the Daily News had a good piece on that recently, asking the question, why is Ryan Howard even here? In some ways, he kind of is clogging a roster spot that they could be using for a young player. I mean, my take always has been he's not really blocking anybody per se. There's no hot first base bat that needs a spot on the Phillies roster right now. So it kind of didn't bother me to a certain extent that he's still around. But, I mean, if he doesn't play first base for the Phillies, and then maybe Cody Ashley does. I mean, so there's really no top prospect that he's blocking. But at the same time, you'd almost be doing the Phillies an overall favor if he was let go and able to pick his own team as a free agent. But we're beyond that point now.
Frank,
I think
if he just faces right-handers, and that he can show that, could they possibly try, now that contract's up, and they just showcase him against righties, does he have a shot to be moved at the deadline?
I said this last year. His numbers historically have been not so great against left-handed pitchers. Darin Ruf's numbers have been pretty good against left-handed pitchers, and I don't know why they didn't just do a straight platoon already. I think if they had done a straight platoon and not worried about feelings, they would have put him in the best possible spot to succeed. And if they had done that, then there might have been a team that had seen him in a good light and had been willing to take a chance. Now more than ever, they have a shot of trading him by the late August deadline. I mean, if he's hitting against righties well, and they make sure they're only putting him in situations where he can succeed, then I think they have a shot to move him down the line. But I think there's nothing imminent that would happen at this point in terms of moving Howard before the season or anything like that. So I think he's ours at least until August.
All right, Frank Klose, of course, 97.3 ESPN.com, part of Philadelphia at Sports Talk Philly. He'll be covering the Phillies all season long, starting with spring training coming up, and he will be down there for 3 spring training games. We'll have live reports during those games with Frank. You can always hit Frank up with the mailbag questions every Monday. Post it to 97.3 ESPN.com at Frank Klose with a K, 973, and every Tuesday we will answer the mailbag questions right here on 97.3, and we will talk to Frank on Thursdays as well throughout the baseball season for all your Phillies news and notes. And, of course, Philadelphia.com, Sports Talk Philly, where Frank has more of his information and stories. All right, Frank, I know you are dreaming of a grouper sandwich.
Oh, I sure am. Can't wait to get to Frenchie's.
All right, pal, I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so much, Mike.